Hey, what's up guys? My name is CykaHotFire and today I'm going to be answering the age-old question in CSGO, and that's which SMG should you use? There's a ton of different options when it comes to which gun you should use to farm eco frags, so let's get right into it. Also, all the information in this video was found using the CSGO weapons spreadsheet, which will be linked at the top of the description if you want to see all the information for yourselves. To see the difference between all the SMGs, we're gonna have to look for a few different factors, including price, damage, fire rate, and even the magazine size of the gun. So first of all, let's look at the MAC-10. Coming in at the cheapest of all of the SMGs at only $1,050, it's probably the most picked option for the T-side anti-eco. Not only is it the cheapest, but it also has a pretty quick fire rate at 800 rounds per minute, which actually, to compare it, believe it or not, it's the same as the Negevs. So this thing is literally a turret. Now, although all of that may sound good, the MAC-10 definitely isn't the perfect SMG, as at point blank range against armored opponents, it's gonna take around 8 shots to the chest to kill, which will now compare to our next SMG in line, the MP7. Both the MP7 and the MAC-10 are pretty similar when it comes down to the raw numbers. They both have the same 29 damage, but there's a slight difference. At the same range as the MAC-10, the MP7 only takes around 7 bullets to the chest to kill, compared to the MAC-10's 8. This can definitely be a life or death difference when it comes to close range gunfights, especially on anti-ecos where you're going to be playing like 5.7s and things like that could easily one-shot you to the head. Although having better damage against armored opponents, the MP7 doesn't really have that much else going for it. Compared to the MAC-10's 800 round per minute fire rate, the MP7 sits at 750, and is also gonna dent your bank account a bit more by costing $1,500 compared to the MAC-10's 1050. The only real benefit to using the MP7 is that it only has a 15% damage fall off compared to the MAC-10's 20, and it's also pretty accurate if you fire in short bursts at long range, so it's without a doubt the best SMG at range, but you know, how many times are you going to be using an SMG from that far away? Either way, both of these guns are very similar when it comes to damage and fire rate, which is why I recommend going with the MAC-10 over the MP7. But now you might be wondering, hey Suka, what about the MP7's useless brother that nobody uses and or cares about, the MP5? Well, if I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief, the MP5 is really just an MP7 with less damage and a suppressor. They're literally the same in all other aspects, so unless you want to hide in corners and wait for enemies to run past you, then shoot them and just bait your entire team, I really would not recommend using the MP5. That being said, let's get on to our next SMG. We're going to talk about the UMP now, and the UMP is a really interesting gun because it actually has a base damage of 35, which is not only more than some rifles, but it's a lot higher than other SMGs. It also has roughly the same armor penetration as its SMG brothers as well, so you'd probably think that it's the best choice to go with, especially since it only takes 6 shots to the chest at close range to kill, compared to the MAC-10's 8 bullets and the MP7's 7 bullets. But if we glance over at the damage falloff, we can start to see why the UMP isn't just the perfect SMG. The statistic says there's a 25% damage falloff at 500 units, and you know, measuring in CSGO is weird, so in case you weren't all too familiar with the unit measurement, it's roughly the distance between both of these two bots, so not really that far at all. It also has a fire rate of 667 rounds per minute, which is actually the same as the M4A4. Keep in mind that the MAC-10 has an 800 round per minute fire rate as well, which is the same as the Negev. So overall, the UMP really isn't that bad of an SMG. I mean, I'd say it's pretty much the same as the MAC-10, since it does slightly more damage but has a slower fire rate. It also only costs $1,200, so not too expensive at all for what it is. Personally, I would go with the MAC-10 just for the better fire rate, but this one is honestly really just down to preference, as they're both extremely similar. Personally, I would go with the MAC-10 just for the 5 extra bullets and the better fire rate, but this one is honestly just preference. If you like the UMP more, just go with that. If you like the MAC-10, which I assume most of you do, definitely go with that. As we get into some of our final SMGs, I guarantee you guys are gonna find out some interesting things. That being said, let's now talk about the pp-bizon. The Bizon is honestly probably one of the least used guns in the game, but surprisingly, it's not really that bad of a gun. The damage and fire rate on it is practically the same as the MP5, which makes sense considering the thing has 64 bullets, but the Bizon is actually pretty useful in certain situations. For example, on CT side second round, you can buy a Bizon and smoke off a choke point like B-apps on Mirage for example, or pretty much anywhere close range where you could stand next to a smoke, and just wait for enemies to come through, get a kill or two, and then just spam the smoke and fall back to prevent the push from working. With other guns like the MP9, the fire rate would kinda be a disadvantage for you in this position, since you could honestly just waste a lot of ammo on one guy. I'm gonna talk about the MP9 in a bit as well, so you know a bit more what I mean. But with the Bizon, you would have a slower fire rate to help you spam and get some easy mode downs, especially with the extra bullets as well. But once again, it's a really situational gun, and may not be worth the risk if you're not confident that Ts are gonna rush you. The Bizon could be really useful in lower ranks like Silver, Gold Nova maybe, like people just hold down W in those ranks. The Bizon could especially be useful. I recommend to test it out. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, I mean, maybe you could use another gun, but it's definitely useful in its own situations. And with all that being said, we're brought to our last real SMG, as I like to put it, the MP9. The MP9 is pretty much, as I like to say, the Mac-10 on Adderall. This thing is tied with the P90 for the fastest fire rate in the game at 857 rounds per minute. I don't know why the number is so specific, but you know, CSGO devs are weird. Its damage is a bit low though, but considering it's pretty much the same case as the Bizon, except in this case it's not more ammo, instead you're gonna have a faster fire rate instead of 64 bullets, you're gonna have to sacrifice a bit of damage. But not only that, the main downfall in my opinion for the MP9 is the incredibly wacky spray pattern on it. Like personally, I think this is the most complicated one in the game. Like I really want to talk to the absolute maniac of a CSGO dev that thought it was possible to master this. Personally, I think that using the UMP over the MP9 is really just a simpler option. It will save you a ton of time for learning the spray and all that, but if you somehow manage to get decent at the MP9 spray, it's definitely the best option for a CT SMG. And now, with all of our real SMGs out of the way, let's talk about the P90. I'm gonna make this quick because the weapon honestly isn't even really worth mentioning. There's really no reason to buy it. Like if it was $1,800, maybe it would just be worth it. But at $2,350, you're better off just buying a rifle if you're on a buy round. Or if you just want pistol round and you're thinking about buying a P90, man, just buy a Mac-10 or something. But now, let's wrap it up and make the official CykaHotFire SMG tier list. At S tier, I'm gonna put the Mac-10. You could literally just jump around corners with this thing, mow people down like no tomorrow, good fire rate, pretty decent damage, it's a good gun all around. At A tier, I'm gonna put the UMP. It's not as good as the Mac-10, but definitely the second best SMG for sure. It's pretty much good all around as well, and is usually the SMG that most people go to. At B tier, I'm gonna put both the MP7 just because it has decent range, and the MP9 if you figure out how to do the fire rate with it. It can definitely be a really good gun, but you just have to master it. At C tier, I'm gonna put the Bizon since it's just way too situational and sometimes it just doesn't work out at all. It's like there's nothing you can do about half of the times you die with a Bizon. The MP5 is the same way. Like some of the times you're gonna be sitting in corners, you're not gonna get cleared and you're gonna find like 2-3 kills with it. But other times you're just gonna get cleared and you would be better off buying a UMP or a Mac-10 or something. And finally, all the way at the Z tier, we have the P90. Honestly, it's just absolute doo-doo. There's nothing else to say about it. But besides that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and I hope it did help you out on choosing which SMG to rock in your next CSGO game. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.